Hello friends, today I have with me a video on the fundamental unit of the nervous system specialized to transmit information to different parts of the body, that is, the neuron. Neurons are the building blocks of the nervous system. They receive and transmit signals to different parts of the body. This is carried out in both physical and electrical forms. There are several different types of neurons that facilitate the transmission of information. The sensory neurons carry information from the sensory receptor cells present throughout the body to the brain, whereas the motor neurons transmit information from the brain to the muscles. The interneurons transmit information between different neurons in the body. Now let's talk about the structure of neuron. A neuron varies in shape and size depending upon their function and location. All neurons have three different parts, that is, dendrites, cell body, and axon. So let's discuss the different parts of neurons. First, let's talk about dendrites. These are branch-like structures that receive messages from other neurons and allow the transmission of messages to the cell body. Now let's talk about the cell body. Each neuron has a cell body with a nucleus, Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and other components. Now let's talk about the axon. Axon is a tube-like structure that carries electrical impulse from the cell body to the axon terminals that passes the impulse to another neuron. Now let's talk about Schwann cells. In the peripheral nervous system, Schwann cells are neuroglia cells that support neuronal function by increasing the speed of impulse propagation. The Schwann cells are underlain by the medullary sheath. The medullary sheath is interrupted at intervals by the nodes of Ranvier. Now let's talk about the myelin sheath. The axon is surrounded by a whitish, fatty layer called the myelin sheath. Outside the myelin sheath, there is a cellular layer called the neurolemma. Talking about the synapse, it is the chemical junction between the terminal of one neuron and dendrites of another neuron. Now let's talk about the different types of neurons. There are mainly three different types of neurons, namely sensory neurons, motor neurons, and interneurons. Talking about the sensory neurons convert signals from the external environment into corresponding internal stimuli. The sensory inputs activate the sensory neurons and carry sensory information to the brain and spinal cord. They are pseudo-unipolar in structure. Now let's talk about the motor neurons. These are multipolar and are located in the central nervous system, extending their axons outside the central nervous system. This is the most common type of neuron and transmits information from the brain to the muscles of the body. Lastly, talking about interneurons, they are multipolar in structure. Their axons connect only to the nearby sensory and motor neurons. They help in passing signals between two neurons. The important functions of a neuron are firstly chemical synapse. In chemical synapses, the action potential affects other neurons through a gap present between two neurons known as the synapse. The action potential is carried along the axon to a postsynaptic ending that initiates the release of chemical messengers known as neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters excite the postsynaptic neurons that generate an action potential of its own. Talking about the electrical synapse, when two neurons are connected by a gap junction, it results in an electrical synapse. These gaps include ion channels that help in the direct transmission of a positive electric signal. These are much faster than chemical synapses. You can find my link or video on cell and its organelles provided in the description box below. Thanks for watching.